good morning, everybody. Chelsea LaRude with Iowa Travel Industry Partners. Great to have you here. And really excited to introduce you to our newest partner, Shrpa. And I'm going to hand the floor over to Chris and let him share what his company is all about.
Perfect. Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate it. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you for watching the recording, who's able to join us that way as well. So we're excited to be able to share Shrpa with all the communities throughout Iowa. We've just been kicking things off. Some of you have been hearing from us from when we've connected with you over the phone and doing some of these introductions individually, but I wanted to be able to take this time to be able to introduce Shrpa to everybody, go a little bit high level with it, just so that you can kind of get an idea. And then we're always happy to be able to follow up individually to be able to get a little bit further into the details with it. But I guess just to start things off with this, I want to make sure I thank iTIP for allowing us the opportunity both to be able to support the work that you're doing there in Iowa, but then also for putting on this webinar so that we could help introduce ourselves. That's just a really nice opportunity for that. And then, like I said, we want to take this opportunity to just kind of go high level and answer any questions that you might have in mind. So as we go throughout this, definitely be thinking about what questions you might have. So I'm Chris Lukenbill. I'm the co-founder of Shrpa. We have been kind of working here for a while through Minnesota, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as far as how we've been growing throughout the US. But throughout this webinar too, like I said, if you have any questions, type them into the chat. We'll be sure to cover those at the end. We can also kind of talk about some questions that we've had from some other webinars that we've done also. But then also don't hesitate to reach out with any questions afterwards that you might have. We're always happy to be able to connect and tell you a little bit more. So with that, let's jump into things here. Really kicking things off, usually we like to talk about the value of user-generated content. We really see that as the way to help frame all of this, because that's such an important piece of what we do here at Shrpa. And so we want to make sure that we're all really on the same page for that. And really for user-generated content, that's the content that we're talking about that's created outside of your brand. And so, you know, why does that matter so much? Really, the biggest thing is that more and more DMOs are using user-generated content to be able to help augment their marketing efforts. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, first and foremost, it's that authenticity, really being able to show something from a traveler's perspective, from somebody outside of your brand who's able to tell people what they love about their community. They can just be a lot more creative with that. Really allows them to be more, you get a lot more diverse content in there, is because you're just getting a lot more perspectives coming to the table beyond just the people from within your organization. And then with that diversity of content, it really helps to resonate with a much larger audience, right? So being able to talk to a lot of different groups and tell them why your community is such an amazing place. And then with that as well, being that you're having that work that being done outside of your team, it really helps to multiply the efforts that you're already doing, right? So you can help to highlight those. You can help to, we always talk about the fact that this is your opportunity to be able to share those and kind of spread those out further, but being able to bring those in from everybody from outside helps to really multiply that work that you're already doing. And then of course, you really get the higher engagement rates with that content from that authentic outside perspective, right? So being able to use that in any channel, whether that's your social media, your visitors guides, putting it on your website, you get a lot more engagement in all of those different pieces when you have that authenticity to it, when it's coming from outside of the brand as well. So that's really the big thing here with user-generated content. And from our take on it, the big thing that we talk about with Shrpa is we really help you get the user-generated content that you want. And that's what's really been helping us to become the fastest growing DMO platform, you know, working with communities all throughout the US. And really what we're doing there is connecting them both to that UGC that they want, and then making it easy for them to be able to use that user-generated content in all of their marketing channels. So we'll talk about a few different ways that we're doing that as we go into it here. You know, that's really what's helped us grow. We're just getting ready to celebrate our 100th customer that's coming on board here soon. And that's something that we've been able to do, again, because of the fact that we're just trying to make it easier for these communities to be able to get that UGC that they want. And so we started here in Minnesota, actually. So Explore Minnesota was one of our first partnerships that was able to help us grow throughout our state. So we're just over 60 communities now, I think, in Minnesota alone. And then Wisconsin is where we've grown to next. And of course, Iowa is where we're heading to also. We have some communities in Illinois, some communities in Missouri. We're going through basically all the states that you see here, with Arkansas being that next partnership that we just kicked off earlier this year. So we're seeing that, again, growing through all of these communities. And then, like I said, that really just goes back to just the work that we're doing to really help them connect with that user-generated content that's already being created in their community there, and helping them to create more of that content. So let's talk about that just in a little bit more detail. The way that we kind of show that off a little bit here, so let me kind of move over to my intro here. We've been sharing this one pager here that kind of talks high level of all the different things that we do. So the first piece there kind of talks about what we've already touched on here, is the user-generated content that you want. So usually when you talk about user-generated content, you're talking about that Instagram, Facebook content that's already out there, that you're out there trying to track down and find the best content to be able to help highlight what you want to highlight in your community. And there's a couple of challenges with that. Usually that takes a good amount of time, because you're having to go out there and trying to search through what's already out there. And then the other challenge that goes with that is, just by the nature of what the content is, it's highlighting your busiest locations, your busiest times of year. Maybe when you don't need additional travelers there, your hotels are already fully booked. When you need more people is those shoulder seasons, those kind of hidden gems. And so that's where we really help highlight that, with the ways that we're able to get more content creation happening in the places where you need more content, and during the times of years when you need more content. One of the ways that we do that is that second point there, is through the collaborations. So the collaborations are a really big piece of our platform. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but basically what that comes into is, if you've worked with any content creators in the past, some of the challenges that can be with that is trying to figure out who's a good fit, trying to figure out what kind of content that they'll create, what the price will be, what the deliverable will end up being at the end of it. And what we're able to do is really just streamline that entire process, from determining what content you want created all the way through finding creators and being able to provide feedback at the end. We just make it a much simpler process for you to be able to do that, which is really what's opened up content creation through collaborations for so many more communities. We're doing that with communities that, again, who have never done collaborations in the past, just because they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the time, and we're able to do it in a way that is much more affordable and just much easier to be able to do as your team is concerned, both with the time that it takes them and the effort that they're putting into it throughout the process. And then from the content that's created from collaborations, from community engagement, which is another way that we do that as well, all of that content that's in your community, you then have the ability to be able to use that in all of your channels. So we highlight it there over here on the right with boosting your social media, of course. That's a really big piece of it. So we have some tools to be able to help you augment your social media postings with that content that you're able to get in through the platform. In addition to that, there right underneath that is upgrading your website. So we see that a lot when we talk to communities. They talk about the fact that they need some more engaging content on their website. You may or may not have the budget to be able to update that website, because as we know, that can be a big project, both from the cost side of things and the time that's taking to be able to do that. And so when you're talking about being able to update your website, we want to be able to do that in a way that is both simple and cost effective. And so we have a couple of different tools that help you to be able to do that with all of that content that you're able to bring in through those collaborations, through that community engagement. And then finally, the last bullet point that we jump over here over on the bottom left is converting that inspiration into adventures. The one thing that we're talking about here is all of our content is based around itineraries. And so we'll jump to one of those here next. But the important piece with the itineraries, there's a few different pieces that are important there, but one of them is being able to make sure that that content that really inspires people to get out and explore and gets people excited about your community can actually turn into travel, right? And so itineraries are one great way to be able to do that, is to start putting some of those plans together for people to be able to remove that friction of being able to travel into a new community, right? So the challenge sometimes there is they might know that they are interested in something in your community, but they've never traveled there before. So how are they going to make those plans if they haven't been there? That's where some of these itineraries can really help turn that inspiration into actual travel. So with that, let's go look at one of those itineraries. I always move the wrong direction on that. All right, so here's an itinerary that we just want to highlight just kind of what it looks like. So we have this preview that gets into all of the details of the destinations, what to expect, who created the content. That's one thing that we like to highlight here, is that all of these are created by individuals with their perspective again. So it's, again, that authentic content that's highlighted here. You see maps, you see, kind of what to bring, the adventure photos, all of those types of information. And then when we jump into explore, we get even more details here. So we jump through each one of the stops. We have places to be able to just explore, right? So kind of traveling around in the community. We see the photos that are shown as part of that. We see the descriptions that they're writing to be able to get all of the information about it, pro tips that go with it as well. And then we travel into the next place. Again, more places to be able to explore, some museum type of locations. Now we have also places to be able to eat as well. So when we get to the next one here, now we're heading into a place to be able to eat for lunch. That's all different types of content as far as outdoor exploration, places to eat, places to shop. Again, providing that authentic content that is also, the other nice thing about this is when we're talking about itineraries, these are all places that they love to go and the reasons why they love to go there, right? So we always talk about the other big advantage of itineraries is the fact that it's very business positive type of content that we're highlighting here. This isn't a Yelp review. This isn't TripAdvisor. We're not trying to boil it down to a star rating or thumbs up, thumbs down. So just kind of walking through the entire adventure here again, seeing all the different types of content. Then when we get to the summary, we'll see more content from the area. So you can go through and see more adventures from around, but then also being able to see more adventures from that creator. And if there was a partner community in the community, or in the area, I should say, then you'd be able to see more adventures from that community as well. So that's a full adventure. And then from there, I'll also highlight here as far as a partner community, this is where you would go in to be able to access and get to that content to be able to use in all of your different channels. So you'll see that there's website upgrades, there's QR codes, there's photo downloads to be able to get to all of this type of stuff. But then we also have the collaborations to be able to manage the content creation or community engagement to be able to do. So we'll get through all of that at some point. If you want to be able to do a demo, learn a little bit more about this. But I just wanted to touch on this as well to be able to highlight that. And from there, I will actually hand it over to Rebecca if you would like to speak a little bit. You had mentioned that you're able to kind of share some of your experiences. Rebecca is actually one of our first, is our first partner community in Iowa. So they've had an opportunity to be able to use it in their community there in Okoboji. So if you'd like to share a little bit, Rebecca, as far as your experience working with the platform.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. We've been working with Shrpa for just under a year now. And I don't exactly remember how I found you, but we saw it. I reached out. You kind of walked us through it. I thought, this is great. This is exciting. We want to try it. One obstacle we were running into is that we can show everybody everything that the area has to offer. And we've found that it overwhelms them. And our visitors are not that creative. They don't tend to want to put together their own itineraries. So then our next step was that we were creating blogs that like outlined everything they needed, but had a lot of flexibility so they could pick and choose. And that seemed like it was still a little bit too much for some of our visitors. They would contact us and say, well, I still don't know what to do. Okay, that's fine. So we were really looking for a great way to utilize itineraries, and Shrpa was perfect. So like I said, we started using that a year ago, and it makes it so easy. They just pop on and it tells them where to start their day, where to go next, where to go next, where to go next. And they have a full day set up or a half day, depending on how long of an adventure you want it to be. And so internally in our office, we were having a lot of fun with it. We were like, okay, this is pretty cool. We love this. And it was a really fun way to kind of show off some of the local businesses. Well, then we started sharing it once we kind of built a few of them, we started sharing it with our partners in the community, and they were so excited about it. So what we've done with some of our area hotels or some of the restaurants or some of the attractions that are on the adventures is we'll create like a little poster with a QR code specifically to that adventure. And it can like the nature center is on one of them. So when you go to the nature center, you can click that QR code. Basically, it says, hey, you're on an adventure right now. Do you want to see what else you might like to do? And they can click that code, and all of a sudden they see everything that's probably going to interest them while they're in town. So that's been really positive. Also, like I said, our hotels really love it. we've got one hotel, one property it's adults only. So their content, they don't need anything focused on kids or anything like that. So we have a few adventures that are for couples only, or maybe antiquing, things like that. And so they love having that content so that when their guests are like, oh, we just don't know what to do today, they're like, here you go, here's a couple ideas. And it's really easy. Another thing that we love, we got to see it on the screen here on a computer screen, but this platform is so mobile friendly. Like, it looks amazing on a cell phone. And, we see that most of our visitors who come to our website anymore are coming on the cell phone. So for us, it was really important that whatever platform we were using for itineraries was something that people could enjoy and really, really utilize in the palm of their hand. And this platform is perfect for that. So that's been really fun. And then I will also tell you, it's our intention to start working with collaborators and having people from outside of our community kind of to partner with them, find some really good fits, have them come and do an adventure here and see our community through their eyes. We haven't quite done that yet. But even though we haven't done that, we've had a few people who are already collaborators on the platform who have come to our community and created their own. And when that happens, we get this email that says, you have a new adventure, whatever. And we're like, what? So we look at it and we're like, oh my gosh, oh, that is a fun day. Oh, wow. And I mean, that's one of those things where it's been really awesome. And then it's so funny because just yesterday, Lori in my office, no, it wasn't yesterday, it was 2 days ago, she was saying, well, because we were talking about getting some more itineraries, doing stuff. She goes, Shrpa, she goes, do you even know if that's working? She's like, we've been doing that. She's like, is anyone even looking at them? And I'm like, it's funny, you should ask. Click, 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 click. And I was able to log into the dashboard and I'm like, so your itinerary about the dog day in Okoboji where you bring your pet everywhere? I'm like, this many people have seen it. This many people have interacted with it. I'm like, yeah, I think it is working. And she was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So that's been really fun to see which itineraries are getting a little more response than others and what are people enjoying. So we have really enjoyed using it. And it's one of those things where I feel like we are just scratching the surface on what we're truly doing with the platform. And so we're excited. We've already talked internally in the office, and we've talked with several of our partners in the community to see if, like, especially kind of creative, I'm going to call them local influencers, so that maybe they can create some fun itineraries. And that's been really great. One other thing I want to say is it's super easy to embed these on our website. So that makes it easy for people to find. And I think we've done a rainy day itinerary, and that is like the best thing to share when it rains on social media. So like probably tomorrow, you're going to see a rainy day Shrpa itinerary on our social media. It looks great when you share it on Facebook. Super easy. People are looking for that content. We already have it created. It's just click, click. It's out there. And it's been really great. So we've really enjoyed it. We have fun doing it. It's so crazy easy. Like, it just walks you through step by step. We don't have to think too hard. Like, the most difficult thing is to come up with our most creative pro tip. And personally, I believe my pro tips are a lot better than Lori's in our office, but we kind of have a little competition to see who can come up with better. We think that that's a fun, it's fun to say like, okay, here's what the adventure is, here's what this attraction is, but then to be able to kind of put in those pro tips for us has been really fun. And that's what I have to say about it. We've been loving it, so it's been great for us.
Thank you. No, I appreciate you sharing all of that perspective there, both from the traveler as far as like all the different ways that you're seeing the travelers are using it, and then from the creation side of it, and then of course highlighting the fact that it shows up really easily in mobile. Of course, that's a big piece of it, is making sure that when people are traveling to your community, it's just a seamless experience to be able to find that content on your site and be able to engage with it through their phones. So
well, and I think
I
it's kind of
appreciate you highlighting that.
It's truly like a no-brainer because they've got it with them when they're out around town. So they're not, most of them don't have their laptop. So it's good that it works great on their mobile devices.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is the original idea with this was trying to figure out a way, how do you connect those creators to the people that are trying to discover content, and making it easier for them to be able to explore. And so a big piece of that is not only the inspiration side of it, but then also turning that into actual travel. So we put a
I
lot of
should
time into making
probably
sure it's
add
easy.
one more thing.
Yeah, go
So,
ahead.
the other thing I need to add is just how great your team is to work with in terms of when we're working it, if something doesn't feel right, if something just seems like something about this doesn't seem right, we've been able to reach out to you, and you have done a great job with your programming people in the background. So, like, one thing, we've got an extensive bike trail system in our community, like so many communities. And so when we first signed on, you could either walk or drive to the different adventures. And we were like, a lot of these adventures would be really great by bike. And our solution initially was just to walk the adventure. Well, now you've added, because we brought it up to you, you were like, that makes total sense. Yes. So now you've added, so now we can do actually a biking adventure as well. And what's nice about that is it affects the time between stops. So, and it also, I think, kind of affects like the routes that you take, because it automatically maps it for you. So the map takes the bike trail instead of like the road. So I have to say, I truly appreciate it. I feel like we're really partners, because as we're using it, we're like, hey, this would be a little easier for us. You just make it happen.
Well, thank you. Yes, no, that is such an important piece for us, is to be able to have that communication the whole time. We always talk about, with all of our partners, give us a call, send us an email. We always have a little question mark box in the admin area, so you can always send us a question, or any kind of ideas like that, because it's those questions and ideas and feedback that really helps drive what we create. We're a bootstrapped company. All of the work and time that we put towards this is to be able to make it better for the partner communities that we work with. So that's really what helps guide what we do as a company. So thank you for that feedback. And yes, that is an important piece of what we do. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen again. I just want to wrap up a few more points here that we were talking about, and then I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions here as well. Let me see. So as I was talking about before, with this content, being able to use it in all of the different places, as Rebecca was noting, being able to put it on the website is such a nice thing, to be able to make it available for people. Of course, being able to use it with social media as well. A few examples that we have here on the left-hand side here, we actually have a new photo wall. So the photo wall feature is the newest one that is a new way to be able to share all of that content. So again, inspirational photos, bringing them right to the front, showing them off on your website or any of your other channels, but then allowing people to be able to drive through to the adventures from that photo wall as well. So that's a new piece with that. The middle one there is showing what it actually looks like on Marshfield, Wisconsin, used it for their visitors guide. So again, being able to use this content in all of your different marketing channels, that's part of your subscription, is the rights to be able to use that everywhere. And then over on the far right-hand side here, we're looking at some adventures that are brought over to a website. So again, being able to just make it easy to be able to bring all of those in all of your different channels. And that's the biggest thing that we like to highlight there. And of course, like we're talking about there on the title there on the top there's over 30,000 photos on the platform already, over 6,000 businesses that are highlighted. We're really just focused in the Midwest here, and so you're seeing a lot of that content around your communities. And then as more of these creators continue to come on board throughout the area, as Rebecca was noting, you just randomly get content created in your area, which is kind of a nice bonus. All of a sudden you see adventures that are being created and highlighting your community. And again, as part of this subscription, you have the rights to be able to use all of that content in all of your different marketing channels. So that's the whole point of it. So with that, let me talk a little bit more about collaboration. So as far as getting that content created, collaborations is one of the ways that we do that. And as I was mentioning earlier, one of the things that can be challenging for communities with collaborations is just being able to put all of the time into trying to make those work, right? So trying to make those get started. And so what we were showing here is actually when you do collaborations, on the platform. Really, it's easy as just filling out a form to be able to say, hey, here's what we're looking to highlight in our community. Then there's creators that they'll apply, and this is actually what we're showing here. So here's applications to a collaboration, and then you're able to go through, review the content that they've created there, see what kind of photos they take, what kind of descriptions they write. You see their interests and who they travel with, all of those types of information. And then you're able to choose the people who are really the best fit for that. And that's what we're trying to do here, is just really streamline that collaboration process. So you're not negotiating on prices. You're not trying to figure out, where's that content going to be created? What can you use? What can't you use? Really what the value is that you're trying to get out of this. There's usually that apples to oranges comparison of trying to do all that, in addition to just trying to find who's a good content creator. And we're just trying to remove all of that out to really just simplify that process. So all you need to do is fill out this collaboration form, provide some feedback at the end of it after they've actually used all this information to travel to your community and create those adventures from their firsthand experience. And then at the end of it, you just provide the feedback and we take care of everything else. So that's the biggest thing with this, is for those collaborations, is making those easy. And with that, just to highlight a few of those creators. So here's some of the creators you already have in your communities throughout Wisconsin, or throughout Iowa, I should say. Sorry about that. That's the biggest thing there is, finding those creators from around the area, because we have creators here in Minnesota who are traveling down to Iowa. We have creators, of course, in Wisconsin that are traveling over to Iowa. And then, of course, we all have all of those Iowa creators also. And that's the thing, is being able to get that local perspective from the communities, but then the regional perspective from the areas around. So you're getting content creators from those drive markets who are already wanting to come over and travel to your community and provide that perspective back to the people that they're kind of representing, the people that kind of relate to the way that they like to explore and travel. So there at the bottom, we're just featuring just a few of the photos of the over 30,000 photos that we have in the communities. So again, this is all about taking all of this user-generated content and making the most of it, right? So how do you really find that great user-generated content and really focus the creation of that user-generated content into the areas where you need more content created, and then making it easy for you to be able to use that content. So just to wrap things up, we always like to highlight of, what would you have a creator highlight in your community? And I think that's the thing to be thinking about there as you think about how would you use this for your community to be able to make the most out of that content. So there's my contact information at the bottom there, as far as emailing me, call me. Love to be able to connect with you, to be able to share a little bit more about what we're doing, how we're helping out communities throughout the area, and what we could do to help out your community as well. So the one thing that I want to highlight here, and actually this is one of the questions that always comes up, so I'll just kind of highlight this at the beginning, is we're working with communities of all different sizes. So don't feel like this, if you're a small team of just one or two people, that this isn't made for you and you're not going to be able to get into it and use it. We are very intentional both on the usability of it and even on the pricing of it to make sure that this works for communities of all different sizes. So definitely reach out to us and we'd love to be able to work with you as a community. So with that, I have some questions here that we have from some of our other webinars that we've done that I would be happy to kind of go over, but also if you have any questions, love to hear if there's any additional questions. Open it up here. I don't know if there's is there a chat feature in here? There is. There's no questions in the chat. Feel free to send those in there, or even just unmute yourself and ask questions here as we go. I will go ahead and just throw out a couple of questions that have been asked in the past. Actually, one of the other questions that always comes up is, does it work on my phone? So Rebecca already highlighted that. That's, of course, the big piece of it is making sure that it's mobile ready to go, so that people are, when they're traveling and using this to actually experience your community, they're able to interact with it over their phone as well. This actually isn't an app. You actually can go right through it, so you don't have to download an app to be able to interact with it, but it works just almost like it was an app as far as the simplicity of using it on your phone. The other question that we always get as well is, can I create my own adventures? Which actually, Rebecca, you kind of covered that one as well. You already kind of covered most of our questions on the Q&A portion of it here, which is a big piece of it as well, right? So we want to make sure that you as a community have the ability to be able to create adventures as well. We focus in on trying to make that as easy as possible. So as Rebecca was noting, all you need to do is highlight the locations that you're going to, tell us a little bit about what you did there, add some photos to it. And then at the end of it, you can even note if you want to travel between it as far as driving or walking or biking, all of those things. And then it automatically ties them all together and puts them in that nice usable format that we walked through there as well. And now that we added in that photo wall, one of the things that gets asked is, how does this compare to something like a CrowdRiff? Because as far as user-generated content, of course, we've known them for the last 11 plus years. They've been part of that user-generated content world. And so, yeah, there's some definite similarities to what we do with CrowdRiff, but a lot of differences there, of course. One of the, I think the biggest things there as far as the photo gallery is concerned is, again, the fact that you're not taking content from another third-party platform, right? So this is content from the Shrpa platform. And so there's, of course, some great advantages to that. But one of, I think, the biggest things is, especially with the photo gallery there, is as you're interacting with it, as you click into the photo and be able to see more information, you're not just linking out to, more photos from somebody's Instagram account. You're going to more adventures from your community, right? So it keeps you in that content that's highlighting your community, keeps that traveler kind of focused in on finding more adventures from your community. So I think that's covers most of the questions that we usually go through there. So that's pretty much everything that we have. But again, thank you for taking the time to be able to learn a little bit more about this. And I appreciate, again, the opportunity to be able to present Shrpa, be able to talk about what we're doing here. So thank you to iTIP for being able to do this for us. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Chelsea if you have anything else to be able to add to wrap it up.
Chris, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. I learned a lot, and we did a partnership with RegBri, kind of highlighting each of their overnight communities this year. And Rebecca went in and created an itinerary, an adventure for the first half. And so I got to kind of see some of our work come to life in that. I'm excited to go in and do the second half now of our RegBri itinerary. So that'll be fun to watch it all come to life. So thank you for this partnership, and we will definitely share this with our friends that were not able to join us live, and hopefully we can help create some more user-generated content for our friends all across the state. So thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.